How to get ready for your website redesign. Especially as the end of the year is approaching, that's a question that I'm asked a lot of times. So I thought of taking this quick video to go through the main questions that I often receive from business owners and marketing managers that are thinking of redesigning the website of their company. Since these are questions that I get asked a lot and also answers that I often give, I thought of sharing these answers together with you so that you can get more prepared when it comes to redesigning your website. This will hopefully mean that you can go faster when redesigning the website and also potentially save some cost. Hello everyone, my name is Federico, and together with my studio Sparker, we've been helping a lot of SMEs relaunch their websites. So with this video, I thought of sharing with you some knowledge and answering some questions that I often receive from marketing managers or business owners that are trying to get ready to redesign the website of their company. One of the first questions that I often hear is, when is the better time to consider a website redesign? Well, there might be many different reasons that bring you to consider a website redesign for your company. Often is something that you hear from your clients, for example. You might have, constant feedback from that. And sometimes you receive feedback like the website is not clear, navigation is a little bit hard. Sometimes you might notice yourself that as your company grows, you've added, for example, new pages, and then what you have is not consistent anymore. So it's just time to, make everything consistent again, give everything a new, beautiful shape, and then move on with the relaunch of your website. Other times it might be something which is more anchored to your business needs. Like, for example, you notice that the website is not converting as you wish. So you might have, for example, a lot of traffic and then not a lot of this traffic is converting. What's important to keep in mind here is benchmarks from your industry if you have them. If you notice that your conversion is below the benchmark, then it might be a good moment for you to consider website redesign. So related to this first question is the second question of what goals should I have for the redesign of my website? This is actually not a question that I receive a lot of time, but it's something that I wish every client would have in mind the moment they get in contact with me. The reason for that is because it's so much easier to decide what you need if you know exactly where you want to get with your website and with your business. It's easier for you to decide if the help that you're receiving is good, but it's also easier for me or for whatever company is working with you to clearly focus their work to help you meet your results. So usually the kind of result that you want to look at is, for example, better navigation or an enhanced user experience. Or you might want to have, for example, rebranding. So you might want to have a new overall look and feel for your website. Sometimes is, for example, what I said before, you want to have your website converting better. It might also be that you want two or multiple of these goals at the same time. Another question that I often get is, what is exactly web design and what's included there? You will often hear me talking about web design, whereas actually what I often mean is web design and development. So for me, at least, web design means to do everything from concept to designing to implementing the design into whatever platform you have. However, it could also be that you will find professionals that will only help you with design or only help you with development. So make sure that when you ask for a website redesign work, you clearly understand who will do what. Now, you're getting ready for the redesign of your website. Now, here's the big decision. What do you keep and what do you kill? Which means what needs to go in the new website that you're building. It might be that you already have a very good idea of what you want. I usually recommend that you start with documenting how the new website will be. I understand it's a process that can feel a bit daunting, but usually what you want to do is to have something like screenshot of the existing website, and then take some notes. It can be on paper, it can be in a Google Word doc, it can be a Figma file. Take some note of what you would like for your new website. If there are sections that you like or that you find effective, keep them. Well, take note of that as well. That's going to be extremely helpful in guiding your redesign. Another question that a lot of business owners or marketing managers have on their mind when it comes to redesigning their website is, who do I work with? Here, the choice is often between freelancers on one side, agencies on the other, or, for example, internal resources. Starting from the latter, internal resources can be very good. What you need to keep an eye on is the fact that often once you are doing an internal project, then everything that comes from outside often takes precedence. So I have been seeing a lot of time cannibalized for this reason. Then what happens is that whatever timeline you had in mind gets extended, and the risk is that potentially your projects will not be launched, which means that you have invested a lot of internal resources in something that will not see the light of day. The second chance that you have is to work with a freelancer. It's a very good choice if you're looking for someone who is agile and can move fast. However, freelancers usually will not take ownership of your project because they're more, you should see them more as hands on board. And the other thing is that it's quite hard to find someone that is either a good designer and a good developer. The third option is agencies. In this case, well, you have all the spectrum covered. So you have someone that can take ownership of your project from A to Z. The disadvantage of agencies, especially for small business owners, is that the organization comes with a cost. And often, the larger the agency, the more they have processes that they will not want to adapt for you. So you need to stick with them. That's the reason why I launched Sparker, with the idea of combining, both of best worlds, freelancers and agency. So just like freelancers, we are very agile and we move very fast. But like agencies, we do take ownership of every project. And you can talk with someone that really understands your business. So if you're interested in getting a quote from us, feel free to reach out via the link that you find in the description. Another question that you definitely want to ask, whatever partner you will work with, is how does the redesign process look like? Well, this tends to be very different from every partner that you will work with. And I showed you before the difference between freelancers and agencies. So freelancers usually might want to be more reactive and wait for you to give indications, whereas agencies, they might have their own internal process. At Sparker, for example, we do have our own process that we follow and we adapt according to the need of our clients. Usually we help you with the copy of your website, which means that you are in charge there, and we will improve this copy based on things like, for example, SEO and what your website needs to have in order to rank high on Google and stick in terms of like memorability of the pages. Then we move to the design phase. So once the copy is clear, then we move to the design phase. And the design phase, it's really like where the magic happens. You might want to have something like a mood board or some inspiration from other websites. We will create usually a design that meets whatever requirements you have. We'll review it together with you a few times until we find exactly what works for you. And that's the design phase. Then the last part, which is development, that for us only comes when the design phase is concluded. Once we have all the file of what you want and the final version of each page, then we will move to implementing these pages into the CMS platform that you have chosen. So this is our process. This process has allowed us to reduce the time of relaunching a new website to a few days, actually. Usually it's 1 to 2 weeks. And what we're working towards for this year is the relaunch of a website in 1 day. Now, as I said before, usually a redesign project starts with scoping what you need. And here it's very important that you have an idea of what you need to have on each page of your website, what pages you need to have, what will connect it with the right navigation, but also what you need to have on each page. That tends to be a bit of a hurdle for a lot of clients because for the first time, you might have a bit of the white paper syndrome. So what we tend to do there is to help our clients with templates that they can use as free or as strict as they need. So if you're interested in downloading one of the templates that we usually use for our clients, feel free to click the link that you have in the description of this video. With a template, you can have a better idea of what kind of copy you will put on each section of your website. You don't need to be a designer there, but it's a very good way to make sure that you haven't forgotten anything when it comes to recreation of your page. So a template will typically guide you through, like the creation of the so-called hero section, which is usually the first parts that visitors see, about section, or for example, features, product, make sure you have testimonials, and so on. The other question that you need to consider, and that I often get from clients that are considering working together, is what kind of CMS platform do I use? This is a huge one because the CMS platform, so CMS means, like Webflow or WordPress. The importance of answering this question correctly will have effect for the years to come of your website. You don't want to stick with a platform that not a lot of people use, because the risk there is that the platform doesn't get updated. Sometimes these platforms just stop existing. So that means that you have to migrate your website. What I usually recommend my clients, is to go with something that a lot of people use, that is usually either WordPress or Webflow. Both platforms also offer a lot of flexibility, so they are a very good solution for anything that you want to build, from the most complex to the most simple website. The other thing is that they are very good when it comes to security. And lastly, the last question that you want to have answer is, what will happen to my website after the launch? So for this, it's usually important to have an idea of what kind of support do you need after the website is launched. I know that especially a lot of business owners tend to underestimate what they will need after their website will be relaunched. There are things like, for example, website maintenance, website hosting, the security of the website. So even if you're not planning to rework at your website, at a minimum, you want to make sure that things like, for example, hosting, so what platform will manage my website, and security are taken care of, so that you avoid, any uncomfortable situation in which your website has been hacked and so on. If you're considering working with a partner, make sure that you also ask them if they have a package for ongoing support. Well, there you have it. I hope that this was helpful for you to understand how to approach a relaunch project for your website. And there are, of course, many other questions. So if you want, feel free to reach out to me. You find the link to Sparker. In the description of this video. And if there's any other question that I can help, I hope to hear from you soon. And hopefully good luck with a new relaunch of your website.